welcome to Horror Makes Us Happy, a podcast where we ask the question, what is it about horror that makes us happy? Your hosts are Steve Becker and myself, Chris Whitman, and you can find out more about us at our website, horrormakesushappy.com. Today's guest is Matthew C. Vaughan, a actor, writer, producer, and best known for such films as Cat Sick Blues, Lost Dog, and Event Zero. Thank you for joining us today, Matt. Sorry. Anything you're currently working on that you'd like to promote before we get started?
No, not really. I'm working on stuff all the time. Oh, I should say thank you for having me, Steve and Chris. But I can't announce anything just yet. Got a project that we've got in development that hasn't been announced. But it's not horror, but it's pretty exciting.
Okay. Still in that non-disclosure realm per se.
It's like an animated series that we've got in development with a couple of companies, and we're in the process of just planning to pitch it, basically.
Cool.
So I say we because my wife and I are co-writers on this thing, and that's what we've been working on, and just like sort of horror comedy specs while we wait.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Horror comedy animated. I like what I hear so far. Looking forward to it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Before we get started, a little information for you and the listeners. These are your trigger warnings. We're going to be talking about horror movies, so this could involve anything from murder, rape, suicide, child abuse. There will be F-bombs and all other kinds of bombs, but not Jaeger bombs. Not a fan. So if you are not prepared for that, please take care of yourself and come back. Otherwise, listen to all the fun insanity with obscenity.
Fuck.
And there you go. First F-bomb.
Break the ice.
Yeah. I'll do another one. Fuck. It's fun.
Matt's turn.
Oh man, so much.
There's so many to choose from, right?
Plonker? Is that one?
Plonker works. Plonker.
Yeah. Dolt? Is that one?
Also, I don't know if dolt. I think dolt is proper English. I don't think that's a curse word.
It's a 4-letter word. We'll allow it.
All right. So in the interview, we're going to be asking 3 sets of questions covering childhood, adolescence, and then adulthood to find out what it is about horror that you like, what inspired you about horror, or possibly some of the darker side of things, like what scared you when you were a kid, or things that terrified you, bad dreams, stuff like that. And the idea is that if we interview enough people, we might find some common themes, which we kind of already had. It's been an interesting experiment so far. But all that being said, this isn't meant to be a therapy session. So if we ask any questions you don't want to answer, just say pass, and we'll move on past that.
No worries. It sounds like therapy. Are you 2 psychologists? You're certified?
Certifiable.
Aha!
Certified.
I don't know if he has any official certifications, but no, Steve is the psychology buff. I'm the horror fan, so it's a fun mix.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
So starting off with childhood, what are some early memories that you can think of things horror that either inspired or terrified you?
It's pretty easy, actually. I was scared of everything.
Okay, everything. There we go.
Yeah,
Done.
like I was a full-on wuss, a real coward. It wasn't hard to scare me. I remember being scared by like a leprechaun character in this like a Superman animated series. It was played like, I can't remember his name, Mr.
Mitzlitzl's pick or something, the one who you had to say his name backwards. Yeah.
I remember having a nightmare about that. I think Howie Mandel played him in the Lois and Clark series, which is even more frightening. Right. But yeah, I remember it being, like the Thunderbirds freaked me out.
Well, that's a whole other show there. I mean, the Thunderbirds have that whole Uncanny Valley thing where just dolls are fucking creepy.
Yes, the Swedish chef's human hands. And why does he have human hands?
Oh my God.
He has puppet hands. It's terrifying.
I never realized that, but you are so right. The Swedish chef had human hands. Oh my God, I can't stop thinking about it now.
I mean, handhold knives.
Yeah, that's probably best in retrospect. Not
But
putting a knife in
sometimes he
puppet
had puppet hands.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. So
puppet knives. Or puppet knives. Puppet hands.
Puppet knives.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good horror film.
I know. I was just thinking the same thing, but I think they've already done that with 8 now Puppet Masters. There are a lot of those.
Yeah. So I remember, like, my sister and I stole a wheelchair, an old cane wheelchair from our farmhouse, and we brought it home, and we thought it was haunted, and it was just like, so yeah, everything scared me. I actually avoided horror films until I was like 15 or 16, right?
Okay.
Every time I'd go to a video store, that's what we called them back then, video stores.
Yep.
Old enough to remember that. My brother and sister would just like pick out the horror covers and just say, "Hey,
show them to you.
Look at this," and I'm just like, "Stop it!" It was just like, it would be gory stuff, but it would be just like child's play, right?
Literally.
And it's just like, but yeah, I about when I was like 16, 15 or whatever, it's just like, I realized that real life is scarier than fictional stories.
Right.
And nothing, not a lot scares me on screen at the moment, fictional stuff, that is. The news is a nightmare, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But movies, the horror movies don't really scare me that much. But yeah.
Did your older siblings teasing you, was it just like a friendly teasing, or did it actually make it worse for you?
Oh, no, they're terrible. Terrible people.
To this day, they're horrible people.
No, I love them. They're great. They're just like, they just knew, like they would, just like play pranks on me often. Like they'd find a scary mask and put it on, like, one of my stuffed toys, and I'd walk in and I'd, just like squeal. But yeah, but they loved scaring me, and I was just a big coward. I remember one of my brothers was watching like Nightmare on Elm Street, and I remember, when Nancy's in the bath and Freddy's claw comes out through water.
Mm-hmm.
Like for weeks after, I'd take a shower and I'd like block the drain. I still don't shower or bath. I fucking stink.
Haven't showered or bathed for several decades. Okay, that's good.
Your wife is a strong woman.
She can't smell.
She has a lot of Febreze.
But yeah, you pick anything any film, and I'd say, yeah, that freaked me out. But from when I was a teenager, I kind of, I had a lot of catching up to do, and now, I love horror films.
Did you have any scary dreams in your childhood?
Yeah, of course.
You'd be surprised. We talked to some people who say no, they didn't.
I have very visceral dreams. You probably have dreams where you'll have a nightmare, and then you'll wake up, and then you realize you're still in a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that constantly. I remember having a dream where I was looking outside at my dog, like running in the backyard, and I was like, oh, there's like a dark figure just standing there, right? And I'm like, and I panned back like it was, I was panning back footage, and this dark figure was just staring at me. And it was like it was spliced into my dream. It didn't exist in my dream before it. You know what I mean? It was just like, it was just hovering there. It was like, I mean, it looked like the Grim Reaper, basically. And then my dog died not long after that. Ooh. So that was kind of freaky.
A little bit, yeah. Just the description and the appearance of the dream itself sounds freaky, but then, those real life events to happen afterwards, that's unnerving, to say the least.
But, it's just like, when you're older, you can rationalize things. Like, it's just like, okay, that's a dream. No, two separate things happened. You know what I mean? It's like, but when you're younger, it's like, it's just spooks you.
Yeah. When you're younger, there are no coincidences. Everything is magical, and this has to mean something. Whereas, like you said, you get older and you learn how to quantify and rationalize things like that.
Yeah.
Well, and there could be other things too going on, like maybe, he was playing in a room, coloring pictures or whatever, and meanwhile his parents are in another room talking about how the dog's, on its last legs or, not doing well or something, and he wasn't really paying attention, but then, has a dream later. There are different things that could have happened that he just, didn't remember the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, like that those events might have happened longer than I've remembered them,
Mm-hmm.
like it's like yeah, you put like these pieces together and it's like, no, those pieces don't go together because it's like, I don't know, there was months apart or years, you know what I mean? It's like memory plays into that or messes it around.
Any reoccurring dreams?
No, not really. Not really. I mean, I kind of, I don't know if this, you guys can do this where you can dream about something and then you wake up like scared and then you can sort of redream the same thing and fix it.
I've never been able to do that. The whole wake up from a dream and then go back to sleep and
Yeah.
pick up where you left off on the last dream. No, which really sucks because sometimes you have some great dreams and you're like, I want to go back to that, and then you go back to sleep and you're dreaming about, I don't know, poodles juggling flaming apples or something stupid.
So yeah, I think that kind of helped. Like being able to do that kind of helped me get over being scared of things, right? Because I could, dream of fixing it or making it worse or whatever. It's like,
I think I learned how to do that in my adult years, do lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
But
are we talking about lucid dreaming?
As a kid,
yeah.
I couldn't do that when I was a kid.
Oh no, I couldn't. It was more like as I was getting older, adolescence, and just like, oh, that person chasing me. Oh, I can go back and hunt him down. Whatever. Yeah.
Nice.
But no, I can't remember any recurring dreams. I was like petrified of witches. You go through stages where it's like, oh, this month it's a witch, right? 1 month it's that's Superman, that character from a Superman series, and then next month it's like walking in on your brother watching Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's like, oh fuck, I've got Freddy nightmares for the next month. But
was there any kind of...
Well, that's a nice way of looking at it. You had like a wide variety of fears and dreams, A fear buffet.
Fear buffet. That's pretty good.
Nice.
A la carte even.
Yeah. Were you too into horror, like from a young age?
I was. I don't think Steve's ever really been a fan much.
More in my adult years, I've come to appreciate certain elements of it. But I wasn't a huge fan growing up, no. So
that's funny.
That's actually a good way to broach the topic then. So you mentioned you kind of avoided horror until your teenage years.
Well, you can't really, like, once you start going to parties and sleepovers, and you can't really walk out of a room when your mates are watching a horror film. So you kind of, you can't stop avoiding it. But as I said, that when I realized that, you start to learn about the world, and you realize that it's a horror. It can be a horrifying place, and the horror films are there to escape.
I don't remember. Does Australia celebrate Halloween or no?
Not when I was a kid. They it's not really a tradition. It might be more of a tradition now because of American movies American movies, American TV, and social media, and it's probably more of a tradition now. You see, kids, walking down the street. Yeah, it is, but not when I was a kid. It wasn't like no, it's not an Australian tradition.
Was it more of like a I don't know, kind of a half holiday then, similar to our celebration of Cinco de Mayo or St. Patty's Day, where it's not really, there's no trick or treating or this or that. It's just kind of decorations and maybe an excuse for the adults to drink.
No, not even. It wasn't like it was literally like something another country would celebrate, and we know about it because of American films.
I was just about to say, like Boxing,
Boxing Day.
That's the Canadian holiday where they all punch each other for a day, right?
Yeah. It's the day after Christmas. It's Australian. It must be a Commonwealth holiday.
Okay.
The Australian holiday too.
Yeah, I thought it was Commonwealth.
But yeah, like that. But so it wasn't. I mean, you're aware of it, but it wasn't. It was rare to have kids trick or treating or houses dressed up.
Yeah, it'd be a weird thing to do just by yourself. I mean, as a kid.
Yeah. You would walk miles to just off chance of someone might have candy.
And good candy at that. None of that fucking Brax gummy shit.
That's like a comedy skit just by itself. Like a kid walking down the street, going door to door, and the people opening the door. Like, what the hell do you want?
What is trick or what? Are you here to rob me?
Get the hell out of here!
Candy. Well, we don't even call it candy. We call it lollies.
Too. Okay.
Yeah. So we. I mean, it probably is more of a tradition. Well, I guess it's something kids do now in Australia. But yeah, it's. I think in Australia. I think I maybe went to 2 Halloween parties in my lifetime.
Wow.
I dressed as Mark Antony,
mm-hmm.
not the singer, the Roman general.
Yes. Okay, yeah.
Because my girlfriend at the time wanted to dress as Cleopatra, so I really didn't have the choice. It was just like people, you Julius Caesar. No, I'm not.
That was the only guy that ever wore laurels and a toga ever, right? You're Julius Caesar, so no.
And I remember dressing as a big green frog for some reason. I can't remember.
Sure,
why.
That was Halloween.
Is there a holiday for frogs?
No, I was just
Frogging
joking
day?
About
Frogging day.
Dressing up randomly as a frog.
Frog of July.
It's a good spin of. Yeah, it'd be a good takeoff of 4th of July. Frog of July.
Yeah, that's what I was going for.
It's just like 4th of July, only you tape frogs to the fireworks.
Oh,
you blow up frogs.
Oh, I brought it to childhood animal abuse and the onset of serial killerism. I'm sorry, I ruined everything.
So wrong. So what were I guess jump over to teenage years. So what were some stories or books or movies that impressed on you in your teenage years?
I remember accidentally watching When a Stranger Calls Back. Do you remember there was like a sequel to When a Stranger Calls from like 78, I think, with Carol Kane?
That one doesn't ring a bell.
No, can't say I'm familiar with that one.
Yeah, it's kind of like it opens like the opening of Scream. Basically, a killer or stalker calls
a house,
a babysitter. But anyway, there was a sequel in the 90s. It's revealed, like the stalker, it's revealed that he's how he is staying in the home and doing his spooky stuff. He's painting himself to blend into the walls of the of the victim's house, right? And it's so, like, thinking about it, it's so silly because it's like the victim has wallpaper, this pattern. So it's not like a white or cream wall where it's just one color. So the killer would have to go to like a hardware store and just like find all these different paints.
Right, like you're just picturing him there with his swatches, like, no, not that one. No, it's more of an olive. Do you know what olive is?
Yeah. And so it's like, when that reveal happens in the film, it's like, oh fuck, there's a man painted, and and he's blending into the walls. I remember, like, for a while, each time I went to bed, I'd like feel around my bedroom walls to see if there's a man there. And I watched it like in recent years, and it's really not scary at all. It's like, and it's as I said, it's as silly as like once you think about it, it's okay. So he would have it would have taken him so long to figure out what paint to use and how long it would have taken him to apply. Not to mention to apply it, yeah. Unless he was using wallpaper. No, I don't know. But yeah, it was that freaked me out. When a Stranger Calls Back.
Okay.
Is what it was called, yeah.
Anything else jump out to you as memorable?
I think, just like normal stuff like
the staples
Jaws.
like Friday the 13th.
Yeah, Jaws. Like the Nightmare on Elm Street. I remember the new Nightmare. Is that the one where it's like the movie set? It's like with the actors. It's like a meta.
Yeah, it's the one where they break the fourth wall. Where I think Wes Craven was actually in the movie.
Yeah, that's right. That was great.
That was a good one.
Yeah, where like that freaked me out. But yeah, as I said, I kind of avoided scary horror. I remember watching Toxic Avenger a lot when I was younger.
Trauma films, classic.
Yeah, my brother stole it, and I found it. I found it in his I found it in his room, and I watched it when no one was. I think I was awake in school, and I went through his stuff and I found it, and I watched it at home, and yeah, I mean that's not scary. That's just gory nonsense.
Oh yeah. It's like over the top splatterfest.
Yeah. I watched for some reason my sister and I. It's kind of horror, I guess. We watched Predator like every night after school for about a month. So she knew every word, even the Spanish. She doesn't
even
speak it.
The vulgar comedy lines from that one asshole in the chopper. Like you're sitting here watching this movie with your sister, and she's telling you jokes about a guy who's talking about a huge pussy.
That's right. Yeah, she knew every line. And we used to come home after school and watch it. Clifford. The film with Martin Short. You ever seen that?
Not the one. I'm thinking Clifford and the Big Red Dog or something like that.
No, Clifford. He plays like a 10-year-old boy.
Oh God, that does sound like something Martin Short would be in.
And it's. I mean, I watch it every few years, but we went through a stage where we watch that every day for a month or two. I love that film. It's really it is kind of horrifying because he's kind of like a problem child.
I do remember this now. This stemmed from a skit that he did on Saturday Night Live, didn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it did really poorly. Like it was released about 3 years after it was made. But it's got like Charles Grodin is in it. He's always great, and Richard Kind as well. But yeah, that was another film I was obsessed with. That and Lethal Weapon, of course. I was obsessed with that. Both and Annie.
Annie? Like Little Orphan Annie?
Like Little Orphan?
Yeah, Annie. I remember watching that a lot. Annie, Predator, Toxic Avenger.
No, it's a good group. That's a wide spread. You got almost every genre covered there. You kind of take care of action, sci-fi, and horror all in one with Predator.
Yeah. I guess that's why my IMDb is all over the place.
So you had said earlier in the call something about kind of avoiding horror in your early years, but I could be wrong in remembering how you said this, but I thought you had said something along the lines of that you sought it out in your teenage years.
I guess I was more late teenage, early adulthood when my world expanded a bit more. Started to learn more things, like 19, 20, early 20s. It's probably when I started to get into horror and just started to appreciate practical effects and things, how things were made and storytelling and really like I said before, once I realized that real life is scarier, I just I got into horror a lot more.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's almost like you had more of an interest in it once it became less scary.
Safe.
And once it became safer and there was more of the interest of, I wonder how they made that effect, or this is good writing.
That kind of thing. And I do like whether it's comedy or thrillers or horror. I do like that feeling of like having your stomach like just tightened, that kind of feeling where you're just like, oh, what, just feel intense. So I do like that. And
that general feeling of discomfort or
yeah. And I think like with comedy and horror, they work in a similar way. Well, to me anyway, that's that kind of, don't do that. I can't believe you just said that. Like look behind you, whatever. It kind of works in the same. It hits the same beats for me. So that was part of like seeking out all the stuff that I missed out on because I was a wuss.
You're making up for lost time.
Yeah, making up for all that stuff I missed out on, and then as I started to learn my craft, like writing and making things and acting and stuff, and trying to find great stuff, whatever genre it was in. But like I really got into horror, just for creativity. You see, the effects and especially like the 80s and 90s stuff, like pre CGI era,
the practical olden days.
Yeah. Like I was watching Ghost Rider the other night. It's a terrible film. I kind of watched it because it was filmed in my hometown and I was missing home. I was just thinking this would have been way better if it was an 80s film where you can't rely on the sort of the early 2000s CGI. But once I grew a love for the craft of.
So I'm curious. Did you? So you're talking about the craft of horror. Did you then come to appreciate horror after you had started to approach movie making as a career, or did you find some appreciation for horror and then get into the career part of it and then kind of learn and realize, there's something interesting here for that as well?
I guess it just came at the same time. I think when I think it was about, I kind of had a quarter life crisis when I was 19. I realized that I wanted to write a screenwrite. I had a a good job and I'd never really tried at school or but when it came to writing and when I took that up I was really passionate about it and it kind of came out at the same time. To answer your question, it came at the same time as in like realizing what I wanted to do and then like my obsession with movies and and TV and storytelling and that just came it meshed together.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's I can relate to a lot of that actually. The whole just kind of coasting by the occupation and day-to-day life, but the thing that really does give you passion is the writing. And I think the question was it was kind of a chicken or the egg thing. What did writing and creating cause you to have more of an interest in horror or vice versa? But it does sound like you said like they just kind of both happened simultaneously. The chicken and the egg manifested at the same time.
Yeah. It probably, I mean, I was always often was writing things when I was younger and I didn't realize that would ever be an option or I never spoke out loud about it or I think that getting into horror was probably it probably came after trying to write my own things and figuring out how story works, how movies work.
Well, you see, there's a 3-part thing. It's called the hero's journey, and sometimes you have 2 more acts, but that's next chapter. And I don't know why, but that just makes me think like odd, maybe possibly left field question. But did you ever have that moment in creative writing class where you turn in a submission and you just get a response from your teacher of, "Okay, that was well written," and then nothing else, just that.
Oh man, I used to. It would go 2 ways, right? Like, teacher would love it, or another teacher would hate it and say, like, I remember we just had to. It was like in like a computer class where I just had to make a brochure or something like that. And I remember like making a brochure and it was like I just like filled it with silly jokes. Like it was, I just find awful pictures, like a bear in a like serving drinks, and I'd say, it was just like I'd just make these anyway. It was utter nonsense, and I handed it in, and the teacher. I remember like my friend sitting next to me. I said, "Oh, look, the teacher's writing a note on my work. She must love it." And then I get it back, and it's like, "If you're not going to take me seriously, I'm not going to take you seriously." but then like in other classes where like we'd have to come up with. I remember a business class. This is high school. Remember a business class where it's like come up with a product, and I came up with edible Band-Aids. Like you call them Band-Aids here, right?
Yeah. That's
yeah. So it's just like the grossest thing like ever. Like, why would you want to? Why would you want to eat a Band-Aid after it's been on a wound, right?
Well, it's got extra protein in the scab. That's there's vitamins in there.
Yeah. So I made a box, and I made an actual product.
Okay.
And the teacher was like, I got a principal's award. Like going to a principal's office and like saying, "Oh, look what I did," and then you're like, "What the fuck is this?"
So, well, it's a product you can buy if you would like to eat scabs and wounds.
So it's like you get to a point where you have to like pitch a really awful idea seriously. And I guess that it all helped with like writing comedy, writing horror or whatever. It's just like being rejected and being encouraged. I think you have to have a healthy balance of that.
Yeah. There's constructive criticism and there's realism. Being discouraged but also encouraged.
Well, the one teacher's comment I thought was funny. He says you said that she wrote, "If you're not going to take me serious, I'm not going to take you seriously." But the whole point was that what you made wasn't intended to be taken seriously.
Yeah, exactly. That was the point. The seriousness of it is it's not supposed to be taken seriously.
Yeah. So I can't remember the question. What was the question?
I think it was about whether or not horror influenced you to write or vice versa, and then that just stemmed to my left field question of, so if you worked in creative writing, did you ever turn in any work that just made the teacher give you an awkward reaction, like,
yeah,
that's good, but you need therapy?
I did. Yeah, I did write like.
Because I have had that reaction personally. Just like
I did write like. It's funny because I didn't really watch a lot of horror, but I did write. So I was kind of fascinated in a way, but I was too scared to experience it myself.
Was there any horror literature that you read or anything?
Not really, because that would have spooked me out as well. Dracula, I remember reading. Some like Stephen King, I guess, but not. I would kind of I think I remember reading it, and that was as a young boy, and I was like, "No, I'm going back to my Hardy Boys."
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the book is vastly different than the TV miniseries and even the most recent remake.
Not even that.
There's that
I mean,
one
if you're
part
of the age to be consuming Hardy Boys, you're not in the age to be consuming it.
What are you talking about? No, it's fine. You go from watching Rugrats to watching Serbian film. This is how life progresses.
I remember. Yeah, that's it. I did. Do you remember the? It was like I think it was a TV adaptation of The Stand.
Not a fan. It was so bad and so long. It was like 6 hours in the end.
Yeah, it was like I hired it on video, and it was three videos or two videos.
Yes, yeah, back in the day of VHS, where you had to take out part one and put in part two.
But when did you watch? I watched that when it was released on video, and it freaked me out. But it's probably garbage.
I think at the time I may have been scared of it. No, I think it still bored me back then. But I remember watching it on TV. I don't know which came first. I think it was a TV movie, and then they made it into VHS.
Oh yeah. I think a new adaptation is in the works of that.
That is there. There have been a lot of reboots that not quite a fan of, but I think that's one that could do with a reboot. It wasn't so good at the time because of the technology we had. I mean, hell, maybe even that and the Langoliers could do with a current reboot.
Yeah. The Thinning Man that could do.
That was a good one too.
The Thinning Man. That was.
Oh wait, Thinner?
Thin. That's it. Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was interesting. It had some bitter irony in the end, and you got to watch a guy waste away for an hour and a half.
So
yeah, that's right.
To jump back for a second to the teenage years, did you have any friends or family members who were horror fans? I mean, I know you mentioned your brother had the I think it was Toxic Avenger, but that alone doesn't define someone as being a horror fan.
No, I had friends. I guess I had friends. They were into horror more than I was, but
still not quite a fan in the adolescent age, so it was more of a thing that they did, and you were
kind
of there.
And I guess like when we started, you're staying over, having video parties, and experience more horror.
You had mentioned you started introducing, I guess, some horror elements into some of the things that you were writing, but then some of the descriptions you gave were like that pamphlet, and I forget what the other one was, but
edible band-aids.
Yeah, that's
edible
right.
Band-Aids.
How old were you when you did those things? 16. Okay,
16.
Teenage years.
Yeah, and the story, like when I was writing, stories, that was from 10 onwards.
And so when did you start going into legitimate like horror stories?
It was probably when I started to make my own stuff, my own comedy and sort of comedy horror.
Was that in your teens or in your like?
No, that was like when I was in my 20s and 30s. But I mean, when I was writing, like it would just depend on what the story was. But yeah, when I was as I said, from like 10 onwards. There was a story I wrote in like grade 9 where it was like just a cliched story about like a kid's family being murdered, and I wrote it to entertain my friends. I remember my mum loved it. But the teacher, like, I got a really bad grade. He was talking about the pointless violence and the flippancy of the humor and just like really discouraging stuff. But yeah, it didn't really stop me from. Of course, it didn't. It didn't stop me from. I guess it kind of like like you do when you do take hits. I guess it takes a bit longer to come back from. Yeah.
But still, good for you to continue keeping writing, and fuck him for his criticism, because there's disturbing and unsettling things, and then there's lack of skill, and they're not the same thing. So
and it's like you want to encourage kids to be the best versions of themselves. I'm not saying as a creative writer.
It sounds like he was approaching it. It sounds like he was approaching it from a serious standpoint instead of approaching it as something that was intended to be a cross of horror and funny.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously it was his tastes that clashed, so it wasn't he's biased towards any type of. I mean, it was probably really shit, the story anyway. But,
well, you could have just criticized it for that then, and constructive criticism with that. Not this is terrible. There's graphic violence. No, you messed up this literary device here, and here. Try it again.
I guess like if I was teaching, I'd be like, okay, why doesn't this work? Why isn't this working? Okay, let's break it down and okay, this tone doesn't work. With like would be, but that's
How did you get into writing to the level that you're at. Like, for example, right here, we're having not a discussion of, but you're referencing things like tone. Did you did you go to college or university and have writing classes there, or?
So yeah, I started like seriously thinking about being a writer when I was 20, and I took a year off to kind of catch up on how, just how, my skills and just start that. And it's taken a long time, but I kind of did that for like 5 years, 6 years, just writing whenever I could, and then I went back to college and studied professional screenwriting.
Okay.
I once I was at I got a lecture from a coworker. I was working in like a music store. I was just at the back marking CDs, and this guy, he just like he used to sit next to me, and he turned around and he said, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, "What are you doing with your life?" Right. I was like 24 at the time, or 25, and like, okay. And then he just gave me a lecture about going back to school, and
How old was he?
um,
Like, was he older than you? Your age?
he was probably like late 40s,
Oh, okay.
So he
It's
was
for the moment I was picturing somebody your age.
no, it was like, I mean, he was a like super intelligent guy. He had dabbled in the film and TV and stuff, but he knew a lot about film, TV, and music, and he was just like, "What are you doing?" He basically gave me a lecture on like, like only a small percentage of artists ever make a living. You got more of a chance if you
Apply yourself.
if you study. Yeah, apply yourself, study, whatever that is. Meet people who do the same thing, and so I took it on board,
Mhm.
and I got into this. It was a degree that you did need other education. You needed like an arts degree before it, but I got in off the work that I did, writing samples that I did.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and so that was encouraging. But yeah, it was like when I was mid 20s.
Mhm.
I went back to school, and then I I also met my wife, and who I co-write with and make things with. Met her there, and a bunch of friends, and that turned into a relationship with Dave Jackson, who directed Cat Sick Blues. He didn't do the same course, but he was in the same building, and we just kept building up my skills, and like on that cycle of rejection and failure, and you get to a point where it's like you can't do anything else in your life, so you can't live without. Oh, well, I can't live without writing, or being a part of making film or TV, and that led to jobs back in Australia, writing jobs. That led to coming over here and into LA, and trying to keep getting work in the industry as a writer.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's quite the
Mm.
Cinderella story, to borrow that vernacular. It's like, I mean, going from being inspired to being into the craft, and then actually to the point where you can do that as a living. Like, is that
Yeah.
your primary vocation now, or is that your side job and you do something else for a living, or you're actually able to make a living off just writing professionally?
Well, it's still it's on and off, but
Yeah,
it's like,
but still, you don't have a day job you have to go to, is what I'm saying.
well, I've got like, I do part-time copywriting, but
Okay.
uh, I do, like, it will be like that's sort of like, well, that was the nature of the industry in Australia, because there's less content, there's only 25 million people in Australia, so there's less stuff getting made. So there's
True.
less jobs, and so there'll be stages of my career where I'm like, had a couple of jobs in a row and then go back and work part-time, whatever that is. And that was part of the reason why we came over here, because there's more opportunity.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, it's still, I have points in my life lived off writing, but I've also been very poor as well, and
it's starving artist for a reason.
Yeah, it would be awesome to get paid well for what you do, and but it's also, I can't do anything else now. It's also it's a privilege as well. So I can't, I don't have money all the time, but I don't.
And having it as a husband-wife team helps out too, because
it does help out. I mean, there was a point where it's like, as a writing team, you are sharing the same income. You're not getting paid for two writers. You're getting paid as a team.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about paying any employees. Plus, you don't have that awkward situation of, you're always at work. We never see each other anymore.
Yeah, that's right. We spend a lot of time, like we're writing.
There's even the financial benefit of nice. As opposed to, say, two roommates, where you need to pay for a 2-bedroom apartment for two people, whereas with a husband and wife, you can.
That's true
your
too.
Costs are lower.
Yeah. There were times where we were competing for the same things, and in turn would never get them. Because I really take us both on it. It's like, okay, that we're already after one writer. Or then if we applied for things separately, it's like we're competing against each other, and we have similar skill sets and similar experiences. So it's just like we just cancel each other out.
I don't know. I mean, if you're both applying for something, I'm not. I would think that's increasing your odds.
You would think. But I'm not. There's no complaints. It's all, love writing, working out stories, working out problems.
Is there something about horror as a genre that is interesting to you in terms of those problems, or?
I think what I do like about horror is all the sub genres that stem from horror, and so it's like it's a really open field to playing.
It's no longer just slashers and gories, or slashers and ghost stories. Slashers and gories.
Slashers and gories.
That's another good one. Yes, that's a movie on its own.
Yeah, but I like playing in that field, because it's like you can go all different places and different genres.
Do you have a particular favorite for the subgenres?
It just depends, right? I mean, you have great films in all genres, but I do like comedy horror. I like body horror. Just like science fiction horror, folk horror as well. I guess like
folk horror. That's funny.
Yeah, folk horror, like I guess like the Wicker Man, or the Witch,
or
what was it? This Field in England, Midsummer.
I was just going to say Midsummer.
Yeah, that's a folk horror.
The Ritual, that one on Netflix.
Yeah,
that was good.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's good films in all genres. Like when someone says I don't like a certain genre, it's like, well, you probably haven't watched the right films. Like you, Steve, you said that your horror isn't like your favorite genre. Is that right? Is it? But you would probably find there's still you find great films in horror, right?
I haven't really found a film yet that I really like, but I have found a couple books that I've really liked, particularly in sort of a Lovecraftian, anomalous. Are you familiar with a website called SCP?
No.
Okay. It's SCP stands for Secure, Contain, Protect. And the theme of the website is sort of like
it's like government redacted documents and things like that. It's all just written text, but a lot of things are blacked out and redacted, and it's all about like Yeah, like an underground shadow government corporation that keeps you safe from all the otherworldly and extra dimensional things that are sometimes are documented as if you describe what this thing looks like to someone, their head will explode or they'll die.
Simply, they term it cognito hazard. Just the fact that you know about it is dangerous to you. But they approach it in yes, it is fiction.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, it's fiction. Or is it?
But they approach it as sort of almost a scientific method to some of their stuff. And there are certain things that I enjoy and I get out of it because of the path that I've taken through life, and some of the things that I hold dear. And so that's kind of what I was going to start digging into or trying to dig into when you mentioned these different subgenres. And when I asked, is there something that these specific do you like a particular subgenre? Is there something that one of these subgenres allows you to say or to dig into to try to figure out what it is that you enjoy about them? But I'm not sure. Were you listing those just in general as some of the ones that you the subgenres that you particularly enjoy?
Yeah, I think I was listing what I enjoy to write myself. Not folk horror. I don't think I haven't really attempted that, but I think you're asking like why I like certain genres of horror. Like, yeah, I mean it comes from like, like body horror. It's like, that comes from like a practical sense where it's like, how did they do the effects in the thing, but yeah, why I like that, I don't know. It's like, I guess horror to me, I think, is like, it's comforting, I guess. And I like, as I said, I do like feeling tense, but having that sort of window where you're watching someone else and it's not yourself. But like you separate, like you're watching someone else go through a nightmare. You can relate to it, but you're not experiencing it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's why horror does attract me.
I want to use the word voyeuristic, but that's not the word I'm looking for. Cathartic?
Yeah. Like when I started to explain that sounded like I want to see people go through horrible things. But it's not. I meant, like you do relate to characters, and you are, but it's like when you have that separation of, you can feel empathy, but you can also feel,
maybe catharsis is a better word.
Yeah, in your mind, but it's not real, right? So it's like it's a separation, but yeah.
So you mentioned the practical effects. That's more of like a cerebral technical pleasure, I guess you could say. Of the other ones that you mentioned, or even body, are there any that you have like a visceral emotional reaction to?
Something like the Exorcist, right? The way the horror is, the way the story is told, it's like it's trying to prove that evil exists. I mean, it does. It does. Like how real the story was told in a way, taking the subject matter seriously. I guess that like that kind of scares me more than say, like, although it's one of my favorite horror films, The Blob, the 1988 The Blob, like that's just like pure joy watching those the scares in that, or the practical effects in that. But like The Exorcist, like when you are when you are scared of the film, it's like after you've turned off the TV, it's like there's it's left something in the room. Like there's a passenger that's been left behind.
Interesting way of putting it, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like this feeling, like you go to bed and it's just like you still feel like there's something there.
Yeah.
That the TV is spewed out into your room.
Well, yeah, especially with something supernatural like The Exorcist, which is
yeah, or
somewhat rooted in real life. So yeah, when you
yeah,
turn off the television, you exit that window of watching this film, and you're back in your living room, but still you're still left with that feeling of something is off.
Yeah, and it does feel like there's some that's what you're projecting. Like obviously there isn't something there, but
Right.
it does feel like that. Yeah, there's a passenger. You know, the film has dropped something off for you, and yeah, something dark. So that I find when the scariest stuff to me is the story. I guess the content is taken serious, but that doesn't mean that I enjoy all that stuff. It's just like Exorcist is a good example. But I mean, even like as like the first Conjuring, that had some really scary moments.
Is it the one where the guy had the stuff written, or he cut inscriptions into his whole body, or something like that? Or
No,
no.
no.
No, The Conjuring was the backwards down the stairs Spider Woman crawl thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of films have done that now, but I think they were the
Yeah,
first one.
yeah. But but yeah, it's just like when I guess when the subject matter is taken seriously, like like Paranormal Activity, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't say that found footage horror is a genre that I like. It's just like when yeah, like things that to me were most scariest when it's
Grounded in real life, like it
yeah,
actually happened.
yeah.
Fun fact: Cannibal Holocaust may have been one of the first found footage films ever.
Yeah.
So, just trying to piece it all together here. So you like certain movies that are serious, that leave you, I guess, mulling over, chewing on something.
Yeah, I guess so. I just, but I maybe either the pieces I've given you don't work, I haven't given you the right pieces, or maybe it all doesn't fit together in a way. You know, I remember like I haven't given you the right pieces, or it's a puzzle. It's a puzzle with no cover.
That's a good analogy, yes.
That's deep.
But
I
that's
like
pretty
that.
much
Yeah,
every
yeah.
call. I mean, there's only been a handful of calls where
Right.
somebody came into the interview already knowing what it was that they liked about horror. So you're not alone in that.
I found it interesting that in the beginning of this call, your childhood seemed to be a not happy with horror phase, and then it progressed on as more closer to happy in adolescence and adulthood, which is similar to what mine was like. And yeah, it was. I don't know. I don't know if it's because that's my personal experience, so I consider it normal. But this seems more normal to me for kids to be afraid of scary things when they're a kid, and then you gradually in your teen and adolescent and adult years grow to be more fond of it. But we've spoken to a lot of people that yeah, right out of childhood, they're like, no, everything was great, I wasn't afraid of it.
Yeah.
So to go back a second
Yeah.
to something I said a moment ago, about horror movies that leave you with something to chew on. Do you think that it's just that the artistry of the craft, or a good story? You know, is it that there's some element that keeps your mind going afterwards, or are you focused on the emotional side of it, um of there being something about this scenario that just creeps me out and I can't stop thinking about that part of it, or both, or neither?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's regarding leaving you something to chew on, as in like it leaves you with an effect afterwards. I guess that can all depend on the timing of the delivery of the thing that's jarring or unsettling. Like if it's in the middle of a movie, then yeah, it's probably that direct emotional effect, but like at the time. But I notice a lot of films end on stuff like that too, where yeah, you're left afterwards with a lot to mull around or a lot to contemplate, because it's like they end on one of those graphic, dark, unfair, unhappy moments where you're left thinking that was some shit.
Yeah. I guess I'm more, when I am affected emotionally by horror, it's more, as we were talking about before, the real, when things are grounded in real life, and that kind of how we fill in the gaps when we watch horror as well. When things aren't, you don't know what's happening, or you don't see the presence, the evil. How our mind works and fills in the gaps, and it's worse. And most of the time, it's worse in your mind than when you see it on screen, when it's revealed.
It's like that witch could have totally just been, rubbing smashed up berries on herself, but it was a baby. It was a baby.
That's right. But if we're talking about the Exorcist type, that kind of is that psychological horror?
Another good example from recent film is there was a original and I think another tamed down remake of it, but was it The Girl Next Door, which was based on horrific true events of this woman who lived next door to a girl who got caught up in that woman and her children, and just the worst kind of people, and a lot of physical abuse and just really terrible things, and it actually happened, so it's grounded in real life.
Wow. Is that the one with
oh god, it wasn't that one. The Girl Next Door didn't have too many known actors in it that I can think of off the top of my head. I think there was somebody more well known in the remake, which was not titled The Girl Next Door. It had a different title, but they were both based off the same true events.
Okay. Wow.
It's on the internet.
Yeah. Huh? Sorry, just writing this down. What was it called again?
The Girl Next Door.
No, the remake? Into what?
Oh, the internet. Yeah.
Oh, internet. Yeah. It's got 2 T's, 4 I's, and 11 B's.
4 words, all lowercase. Four words, all uppercase. That's what it is. Okay, so the stuff that you are a fan of leaves something behind. And I think you had said something before about basically that, that is kind of reflecting reality. The heaviness that reality is pretty bad. Is there something that you find interesting about, touching on that point about how horrible reality can be?
I guess it's how I deal with real world horror or anxiety or pressures, is through, I guess, through comedy, through like joking about it, through realizing how ridiculous everything is. And I guess you do that with, like, I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm just saying that's what,
kind of, maybe. Would it be fair to say it gives you sort of a release?
Yeah, and it's sort of like taking the real horror and the way to deal with it is to kind of, for me anyway, is to like poke fun at it, find the absurdity in it, or express it through my own work, I guess. But
I'm gonna say something, and I want to be clear that I'm not trying to.
You can say anything to me. It's
fine. Just as
I love you.
Well, I'm just saying this as an observational thing. It's not meant to be shameful in any way, but I get the feeling that there's some nervousness. And so that's where I was thinking about the release and the catharsis is that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, completely admit that I could be completely wrong about this, but if you are or have felt in your life that you have that fear of things and nervousness about different things, then it could make sense for you to say, okay, well, if I write the story, then I'm structuring something that I can then create the release and the a potential catharsis of relieving potentially an internal tension by writing a story that resolves or releases that tension in the story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like part of that makes sense. I think what you're getting at with you're skating around nervousness, it's anxiety,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And yeah, of course, anxiety watching horror film as a kid and having like a kid brain where it's like, oh, that horrible thing can happen to me. Freddie's tongue can come through the telephone.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course it
I
can't.
hated that.
But as a kid, yeah, okay, that can happen. I'm not going to use the phone from now on because that will happen. But so anxiety, but that in terms of like having like a child's brain. But as you grow older, that anxiety is like watching horror does help you deal with anxiety in a way. Seeing other people go through terrifying things, there is a release of like.
It's almost a release of responsibility, like a release of a vacation, a temporary
Yeah, I
vacation
guess so.
from
Yeah,
reality, if you
but
will.
it's also you. I don't know. It's just like the anxiety kind of dissipates because I don't know. It's like is it immersion therapy where you
Aversion?
immersive therapy? Sorry, when you
Oh, yeah.
do the thing that scares you the most, like public
Right.
speaking, or And I think that there's an element of that in watching horror.
Yeah.
For me, at least. But as you do watch, like as I grew older, it's like okay, that fears of or fictional fears just like went away because it's like, oh, that's not real. But I guess it's a release in a way too.
Okay. The reason that I say it is because, and you talked about childhood anxieties and fears and things like that, and worrying. I was raised by my grandmother. My grandmother was a very big worrier, and so I have dealt with anxiety all my life. But I was also raised to pay attention to other people's um, feelings more than my own for most of my childhood. And just in this conversation, I just feel my own tension. I feel like my own tension is building because I almost sense tension on your part. And on one hand, that makes me feel bad because as a host, I don't want anyone to feel any kind of tension or anxiety or nervousness. And as I was thinking about all of that, processing all that you commented about, um I forget exactly what word you used, but I tied that to release, and that's where that kind of went for me. Is it would make sense to me that if you also felt a similar background, that could make sense to me of why you could seek release in that direction. And like you said about the immersion therapy aspect of it, yeah, I can understand that too because directly related to that, when I was working through college, well, even high school, I started working in restaurants. And then when I was in college, I got the opportunity to be trained as a bartender, which scared me on one hand because I've never, well, at least up until that point, I was never comfortable with small talk.
Alcohol?
Well, No, I was fine with the alcohol, but I was never comfortable with the small talk. I was never comfortable with the social sort of dance, if you will, of knowing when to be funny and when to be serious, and how to move away from a topic if someone says something uncomfortable, like all those different little nuances was very uncomfortable to me in my 20s. And so I took the opportunity to be trained as a bartender because I figured, they say on the job training, if you're doing something for 40 hours a week, you're going to learn it a lot faster than if you're doing it as a hobby, 4 hours a week. So, in a similar vein, I could see how, you know, approaching some of this stuff for you might be cathartic in that sense and maybe help you deal with some of that stuff. But again, like I said, I could be completely wrong about this and I'm just grasping at a straw here. So I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Yeah, might well be. I think, yeah, like you were talking about being raised a warrior. Yeah, I guess like I was not no, it's just my personality, I guess. But I remember like my parents wouldn't tell me things because, and they still don't. There's certain things because they don't want me to worry about. Like from when I was a kid. Like yeah, I'd be awake in worry about something, and it probably does. I think that's why when I do watch horror, that it does help with whatever that core feeling is, anxiety or whatever. Yeah,
it's almost strange to make this analogy, but for some reason the analogy of an orgasm is coming to mind.
Well, you did say release.
Yeah, exactly. That there's the whole tension and build up, and then hopefully a release.
like laughter, right?
Yeah, that
Like
too.
or laughter, and like a jump scare or whatever. Like yeah, I guess yeah. It's like the build up and the climax.
Not to put too fine of a point on it.
The pregnant pause.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I do. Every time I watch horror films, I just orgasm the whole time. Just climaxing, yeah. You got it.
Well, I mean, there was that one where you kind of had a giant cat cock and jacked it off for like 5 minutes. So
that is that's not. You might want to tell your listeners that wasn't real life. That was in a film that I was in. Yeah.
yes. That was.
I do not have a cat cock
in a film.
For one.
How would you? Would it be grafted on? I mean, that's just You know what? That's a whole other show.
Behind the scenes.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Keswick Blues. It's the director's cut.
Yeah.
So we haven't gotten down to the very last questions, but I'm kind of jumping down to them. One of the last questions is about why is it that you like horror in the sense that there could be other genres that provide the same sort of interest that you have.
Like if it's practical effects, science fiction has that. If it's suspense, action movies have that. So why horror in particular?
I think it's one of my likes, one of my loves, I guess. So I wouldn't say it, but.
And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I was thinking was, so the two things that horror and comedy have in common are this build up and release that I don't know that. I mean, you could kind of get that in certain romantic dramas.
There's a lot of release in romantic dramas.
Well, there's the buildup or the tension of, oh God, what's going to happen? Are they going to wind up together or are they not?
Man, ain't you seen that one with Meg Ryan? There was a release in a restaurant.
I would say that falls under comedy. Yeah.
Comedy. Rom-com.
So you mentioned having other loves, and I'm thinking, well, okay, and maybe those other genres that you enjoy, maybe you enjoy them for other reasons, other things that you like to explore. But I could see how, at least for the tension building and potential release, or even leaving it tense and not releasing it. I think that horror definitely is probably the genre best suited to that.
It more often than not has that ending.
Sorry, you go.
No, I just quickly said it more often than not does have that open-ended situation with horror movies.
I guess it's like the type of horror or the type of comedy. Like I'm attracted to the same, like when like Curb Your Enthusiasm, where he's like Larry's in a situation where he like it's like you physically can't
cringe.
You're cringing and you feel tightened, and sometimes like I get the same feeling, but I'm attracted to that feeling where I'm like, oh, I want to feel that makes me laugh. It also makes me horrified as well. Like that kind of feeling. I want to feel tense. I want to feel, because it goes. I guess like it's a comforting anxiety and a relatable anxiety, but real life anxiety. Well, I mean that's uncomfortable because it's real life, but like to sort of manufacture that watching, whether it's horror or comedy or thriller or whatever, that feeling that I like to get from, like, I don't know if you've ever watched Nathan For You. Like I remember moments where in that watching that where I'd like literally get off my couch because I can't sit down and watch what's happening on screen. Like I just like in pain.
I don't know that movie, but let me ask you about. Have you ever seen?
No, that's a TV series. Nathan For You.
Yeah. Have you ever watched Napoleon Dynamite?
Yes.
Do you feel the same way about that one?
There we go.
I mean,
you talking about like cringe, like you watch someone do something that's so stupid that you would never do that, so it makes you uncomfortable watching that.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's a sort of different. I don't mind that film at all. Because I can't think of any moments.
Because I couldn't watch that one. I watched it for like 10, 15 minutes. A friend of mine and we just kept looking at each other like, when's it gonna get funny? And at some point, I was just like, I just couldn't watch it anymore. To me, it was a very cringy movie, but I don't enjoy feeling cringy. So when you were bringing that up, I thought maybe that one would resonate with you, but maybe not.
No, I mean, like I did, I did enjoy it, but I can't remember if that's the reason why I enjoyed it. That feeling of comedy tension, horror tension, or that making you cringe, making you feel like your stomach's turning inside out, or that I can't remember if that made me think that I might have made me feel other things, but not.
But the TV show that you mentioned, that one did?
Yeah, like that kind of, like that kind of, I can't believe you're saying this, like Larry David, like, that kind of, the situations he gets himself in where it's like, like they're kind of feeling, like, to me, I don't really call it like, oh, that's cringe comedy. It's just like, to me, that's like comedy, like how I like to feel, what makes me laugh. So I don't.
Like, that's not cringe. That's normal. that's my everyday.
Like the absurdity of something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's like similarly, I have friends that just absolutely cannot stand the show Always Sunny because they do such terrible things and make such bad decisions. But it's like, well, that's a certain type of comedy. You're not supposed to identify with the protagonist in this. You're supposed to be a third party observer, not identifying with the protagonist or antagonist. You're just like, this is really bad and stupid people doing bad things, and I love it.
Yeah.
Similar to Curb Your Enthusiasm, like some of the things the situations that he gets into are ridiculous and cringe in that fashion. But
yeah,
I don't know where I was going with that.
And lost it.
Yeah. I had a point. Lost.
So, some of the ending questions that we have, I thought maybe might be worth asking. So, I'm going to ask a question about what movie you've watched more times than any other. And to qualify that statement, I'm not asking about horror, any genre, and also not asking which one is, if this is your favorite. Putting that aside, just which one have you watched more times than any other?
It'd probably be Predator. It'd probably that time in my, like I mentioned earlier, watching it every day after school with my younger sister. I've probably seen that and Clifford. Those two films I've probably watched the most in my life.
It's funny when you mentioned those earlier. I was just thinking, it's going to be Annie on this question, isn't it?
Oh man, that movie is dark. Have you seen it recently? That's some
I have
grim
not
shit.
seen it since I was a child.
All these unwanted
they're
orphans, man.
It's an orphan.
I can't deal with that. Yeah.
The next one is about whether or not there are any common threads of the kind of horror that you like. And you kind of already addressed that, referring to the comedy horror, the body horror, some sci-fi, and some folk. But then the next question is, do you have any idea why it is that you like those things?
We spent a while.
And what I'm curious now, looking back at that through the lens of potential cringe. I mean, the body, you can kind of understand that because it is cringe-inducing when you see somebody's, arm get ripped off or whatever. But how about the sci-fi, folk, and psychological? If you think about the movies that you like in those subgenres, is there some cringe aspect to those that you like? Does it support the state?
I guess maybe cringe is the wrong word.
That's what I was going to say. Does it support it, or does it knock it down?
Yeah, I think it's probably anxiety-inducing.
Discomfort.
Yeah, discomfort. There you go.
And then, as to why you enjoy that, then, as we said earlier, possibly the release of that tension.
Splooge.
Yeah.
Or not to leave it. Uh-oh.
They heard me say splooge. That's it. I'm done.
Or not to, some of the movies you mentioned, like Exorcist. I think in The Conjuring, you said there was sort of like something left over or left behind that weighed on you.
Passenger Left Behind. That was it. Yeah, I like that. Also, it was Haunting in Connecticut. I was thinking of with the kid.
Oh yeah, no, I haven't seen that.
Not The Conjuring.
I've never even heard of that one.
Conjuring's better.
Will, Matthew, thank you for your time. It was definitely an interesting conversation.
Thanks for asking me all those questions.
Yes.
Thanks for trying to answer them as best you could.
Thank you for answering most of them.
But I hope you got something out of
it. I do. I mean, if we
delete,
what's that?
Just delete it all.
Yes.
I was like, I do, and you paused, and I'm like, I'm just gonna delete it all.
Yeah.
No, I was just thinking back about the the anxiety and the tension, and I don't want to say this as if I'm expecting one, but I didn't feel like it was a strong yes from you to say yes that identifies what it is I enjoy out of horror. And like I said, I'm not asking you to do that if that's not how you feel. So for closing plug, you actually, during the start of the call, you didn't have anything that you wanted to plug. There was something about an animation. Couldn't talk about it. So I was going to say, do you want to maybe promote somebody else's or friends' work? Cat's Blues.
Yeah, go watch it. Share it with your family. It's family friendly.
Watch it at Christmas.
My dad showed it to his car clubs for some reason. 70, men in their 60s and 70s, conservative men, all white, all just like, what? Oh, there's an actor who's coming. He's the special guest. This actor from this cop show in Australia, long-running cop show. He's coming to. He's our special guest. I know. I'm going to show. My son also has acted in some things. I'm going to show this movie for my car club. Yeah. So yeah, that happened.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
He's like, send me a picture. He's just like, send me a picture of this actor, John Woods. John Woods, yeah, is his name. And then a TV in the background, and he's like, look what and then like all these old men sitting around a table, eating, and it's like, oh, look what I'm showing them. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Are you serious?
Just out of curiosity, had he watched the movie himself first?
This is not. Yes, he has. I know. It's not. I was joking. It's not a film that I could recommend to a lot of people, but it's like it's especially not appropriate for the audience my dad was showing. So yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, that's.
He's spreading the good word.
I show when he watched my brother, he like had a copy of it, and he's like, oh, because I didn't want to show them Cat Sick Blues, obviously because of all this awful stuff I do in it, and most of the time I have no clothes on, and I'm just like, I don't want to. It's weird. Why would you want to make your parents sit through that? That's just like, their son doing stuff like that. It's weird, and yeah, wanted to protect it from him. Oh no, my brother says, why don't you watch it? As teasing me again, and they watched it. My dad said the best part of it was my car, which was actually my car. Yeah.
I was gonna say, you mentioned he showed it to a car club. Like, he would appreciate the scene where you're
in my car
driving around in a car.
That was it. So yeah, it's not like he hasn't seen it before. It's my car. I had it for 13 years.
Did he watch the full thing?
Oh yeah, he's watched it. But yeah, my mum's like, it's interesting.
So your mom watched it too.
Yeah.
That nice, courteous
wrong,
response.
Because I'll be honest, I haven't seen it. But Chris, remind me if isn't there a scene where he masturbates?
There are a few where he masturbates with the giant cack dildo, which is about 18 inches long, I think. There's also a scene where he rams it into a girl's face, and it has spikes, so it cuts her mouth open. There's also there's a scene where he bashes a woman's head in with a porcelain dog statue. It's violent, it's offensive, it's fucked up. But the thing is, it's done so well. Like the acting, the directing, the cinematography, and the score. It's like if you were to take Stanley Kubrick and say, make a nightmare with everything offensive you can possibly think of. It's tastefully done, but the content is not acceptable to most.
And then imagine sharing that with your parents.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were in the film, then that's understandable. If your parents are cool, just preface it with a statement of, hey, so there are some... I'm not going to sugarcoat. There are some awful things in this movie.
I told him all that. But, and it also like had some of my other family members in it as well, helping out as extras. And so, yeah, that had interest for him, to see them on screen. But
so what you're saying is a family affair.
It was a family affair. They didn't really know what they were filming. But,
absolutely. Just like you, when you showed up on set and Dave was like, hey, well, no, that's right. You said you
I'm just imagining 60 years from now, when the grandkids find this, on a shelf and pop it in the DVD player, if they even have DVD players then.
Just implant it into their mind.
And then they can't get it
out. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's why I don't have kids.
But even still, I mean, if it's like one of your siblings has kids, oh look, there's Uncle Matt.
Yeah. I think they've seen the scenes. My nephews have seen the scenes they're in. Thankfully, they're not the most horrible stuff, the horrifying stuff.
Oh, do they play? Does one of them play Young Ted?
Yeah, so that scene, and there was a long sequence that was cut as younger Ted, finding the trunk, no, finding the Catman's mask. Anyway, I think it might be online, Chris. I'll send it to you. But yeah, maybe if you're interested in
showing it to your car club,
that kind of horror, there you go. That's something to plug. It's 3 or 4 years old now, but it's like if you like something like Maniac or Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. It's kind of those two things combined.
I still need to watch that one.
But yeah, make your car club watch that.
Well, thank you, Matthew.
I will do exactly that.
Being our guest.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you to anybody out there listening. Please do come visit us at horrormakesushappy.com. We'll have a schedule posted there to show who we're interviewing next, as well as a list of the people we'd like to interview. If you can help us connect with any of those people, or if you know someone who you'd like to have added to the list, just let us know. You can also become a Patreon supporter and link to our social media. In general, just let us know how we're doing. HorrorMakesUsHappy.com.